Well, thank you for tuning in again on this session on Unified Namespace. The first session we talked about Unified Namespace in general. We demystified Unified Namespace, if you like. And the second one, we coupled it to SCADA and what it means for SCADA. And today we're going to talk about data analytics, AI, DataOps, etc., in combination with UNS. And I think data analytics, I think, is a logical thing to discuss. But at the same time, every time that I hear UNS, I hear DataOps. Yeah. Can we just zoom in for my pleasure? What is DataOps and why is it always combined in a sentence with UNS?
Yeah. This is something we really have to demystify. And there are, I think, lots of misconceptions happening right now. I even dare to say that if we talk about DataOps today, in the world there are still more questions than answers. It's just, I would say, it's about the place we are right now. So first of all, UNS. We already said, I'm just going to do a quick recap. It's about centralized data access in a contextualized way. All right. DataOps is, I would say, it comes from the IT world or from the data world. It comes, I would say, originally from DevOps. DevOps being this thing where in the past you had developers who develop codes, and then you have operations people who put a code into operations somewhere, into practice, which obviously didn't work because the operations people, they got code from somebody else. And anyways, DataOps is more or less the same, where you have people with data knowledge, and you combine that with data, I would say data science knowledge, and you combine it with data engineering knowledge. So that means that you have like one cycle where you have the data extraction, the data transformation, etc., but also the data science, so the actual applications of your data, I would say under one umbrella. It's a term where it can apply to AI, it can apply to classic statistical models, it can apply to standard dashboards, etc., etc. It's more this generic term where all these things they fall under it.
It's like an umbrella where all the little topics.
It's an umbrella term. Yeah, it's an umbrella term, and the most important thing is that it includes both the data engineering part as well as the data science, the data usage part.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Anything to add to that, Leon?
No, I think what I see is DataOps is becoming so prevalent that people are starting to do products to address a DataOps problem. And therefore, you'll see more products being developed because there is a problem. Otherwise, people won't develop products.
Yeah, and that's the perfect, I would say, the perfect step into the UNS thing. To come to the second part of your question, Erik, is if I'm a data scientist, I used to be a data scientist, so I've done the work myself. Like the biggest part of your time, unfortunately, you are collecting not even collecting data. You're first finding the data. You're first finding the data, then you're starting to collect it somehow, hopefully not using Excel, but unfortunately most of the time using Excel. And then you have, if we take the Excel example, now we have different tabs with data sets, which we now need to combine. You get the point. Yeah. So the point here is, me as a data scientist, I would easily spend the majority of my time just doing the pre-work.
And the majority, is that 50%, 70%?
I actually did a survey once myself. So I asked people in back then, my data science team to note that down, 60 to 70% of their time.
Okay.
And those are typically high-paid profiles. Those are typically not the profiles you just want to dig to Excel sheets.
And that means that you're not talking about analytics at all?
No.
We're still prepping the data? So that at least we can run analytics.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So given that, I would say with that in mind, what you see is that especially in the IT world, you've seen these things happening, like first building data lakes. A data lake is just having easy access to all data sources, but without any context. So just dump. But the reason why they did that was to at least avoid that an individual data scientist or a data user needs to start finding and extracting their own data. Then you had this thing called the data warehouse in IT, where you take the data lake and you put context. You transform it and you put context on top of it. I would say the new fancy term today is building a delta lake. A delta lake is a new fancy term, but in essence, it's still the same concept. Now, why am I saying this? Because this is so important for the UNS concept, because people now, they go like, okay, I need centralized access to data and I need data in context. Oh, that's the UNS. And that's why these two things, I would say they are used in one sentence. The problem, however, as we explained in the first episode, is that somebody still, first of all, it's not a product. So somebody still needs to integrate the data. Somebody still needs to build a data context. And you still need to store your data somewhere. And I know it's becoming a long answer, but it's something I like, so sorry for that. The storing of data, now the question is, are we storing it in I would say, traditional OT system, historian-alike environments, being it on-prem or in the cloud, doesn't really matter? Or are we storing it into a more IT-first solution for example, one of the hyperscalers? They are all offering time series storage as well. That's a decision to make. And that's another topic to dive into. But if you're making that decision, make sure to validate that the solution you are picking, being it on the OT or being it on the IT side, is actually capable of working with contextualized data.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you then start building another layer on top of that, just to introduce the context.
Yeah.
Sorry, long answer.
You just introduced another topic for another recording, I guess. Let's keep that in mind. So we talked about UNS, we talked about DataOps. Another fancy word today is AI. Let's throw that on in the pot as well. Let's start talking about AI in combination with UNS. Where does that fit?
Do you allow me to change that into AI in relationship with contextualized data? And that's a small
Fair remark.
It's a small tweak. Every data project requires knowledge of the data we are using. So a traditional way, and then we come back to what a data scientist does in the beginning, is to find the right. When I started my projects in the beginning, I took PNIDs and I took my marker and I just started following the lines where I believe there would be like an impact in my project. Right? So you still need to do that somehow. Now, whether or not you do that with your marker or you do that with contextualized data, because you can say like, okay, I have a project with this reactor. Okay, I want to have the data for this reactor, but I also want the things up and downstream.
Clear.
For example. Now, if you take it one step further and if you go to machine learning, or let's take it even another step further and to these large language models, Gen AI models, where we've seen demos. I haven't seen too many actual applications, honestly, but we've seen a lot of demos where you, for example, ask the LLM, like, okay, what happened on this day or what happened on that line? Now, the LLM in this case can only react on that type of questions if it has context available. And that's why there is this link.
Clear. And that also means that then, because the next thing you see is that there are multiple agents talking to each other. With one controlling agent, if you like, the manager. And so you dump questions at the manager agent and he talks to his sub-agents. That's where it becomes extremely important, I guess, because we're all then talking the same language. And we can understand what the question is.
So what you actually see is that everybody obviously played around with ChatGPT. I think we all know what what it can and can't do. I think the big difference we see happening right now is that you start seeing some kind of schema enforcements to those systems, which means that you enforce, for example, like this data has this format. This is the structure of my plans. I'm expecting answers in this way, etc., etc. And then you come indeed into, I would say, the alley of agents. My down to earth take is that. In general, the overall maturity of industrial, I would say, data is still rather low. It is still very much spread across multiple systems. Even those bigger ones who, for example, they do a very nice case study with a big vendor, big hyperscaler on the internet. If you then, I would say, ask deeper questions. Yeah, but it was this pilot on those 200 tags, right? Yeah,
okay.
It's not like.
So we're in the early stages yet.
We are in early stages.
But
yes.
Will it grow to something big, or will it? What do you think?
Well, it definitely will, but it will take some time. It will take some time. Let it mature on the IT side. Let us work on data integration, data contextualization. Let us cherry pick examples where it can actually help us. Now, maybe I'm gonna introduce another thought.
You're gonna take my role. That's what I understand. Okay.
Sorry. So I can say something as well. I'm gonna take another thing here, another take. Like typically, when we talk about AI, we talk about data is getting stored somewhere, and we're gonna put AI models on top of that data. But why don't we turn everything around and let's say, can we also use AI to help us build automation systems? Because why? You know, if you building SCADA screens, building MES workflows, building data integrations, upscaling data contextualization initiatives, etc., etc. So, I'm less familiar, as most know, with the real OT stuff. Maybe a question to you. I can actually see the I would say the other thing happening also.
I think I want to just bring you guys back. We went on a tangent, is to say what we see is data ops and data projects start in the market where people are saying, I want to replicate all the data I have on a plant floor into an IT system. That's where the project starts. And then you end up with a massive set of data set, but nobody knows what to do with it. So turn it around. You know, how do we use ChatGPT today? We ask it the right question. I think we should start there. What is the question or the problem that you're trying to solve? Start there. And then build up the data sets that you need to transfer. Not say, I push all the data and then figure out what is my use cases. Start with your use cases, your questions, and that will then lead to a proper design or implementation of data flows and data ops in UNS.
It makes sense. So you're back chaining.
Yeah.
You say, okay, this is where I want to go. It's not like, let's throw more hay on the haystack.
Yes, make it more complex. Yeah,
I get it.
Because the big issue that David mentioned is finding the data. Now, if we just replicate the data, we just make it more difficult to find.
I got this image of a haystack, indeed. And there is a needle somewhere, and all we do is just throw more hay on top of it, just to make the chance that we will find that needle
even less.
Close to impossible.
But it keeps a lot of people busy finding the haystack.
Yeah, true. And that's, I think, the other side. That there's going to be a lot of players in the market that love this approach.
Yes.
But more.
Put more data into my system.
Interesting thought. I like that approach. I like that approach. Any final thoughts, David, on this topic before we kind of try to?
While he's shaking his head thinking, I think, like David has said, is we're in the infancy stage of this. And people are promoting pilots as real value use cases without the proof yet. And we need to take that approach, like you say, find a use case where we know the business has had a problem and they need to solve a problem quickly, and then use that, not just build the use case for the sake of building the use cases, so we can prove that the technology we bought works.
And to that point, and thank you for giving me the time to think. But to that point, one of the things I already talked about that 3 years ago is this data journey model where you start with you start with nothing.
In the dark ages.
The dark ages. You go to describe trends, diagnose, which means you cleverly, I would say, you link data to have real insights, predict and optimize. You cannot skip a step, which means that if you are today not good at diagnosing your problems, don't start introducing these very fancy tools on the right side of because it's going to cost you a lot of money and you'll probably fail.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to not just let the buzzwords get the most out of it and go like, oh no, we need to rush into this or that. No. Let's make sure that the data we have is understandable. We can get access to it. We can get first insights out of it, and let's build on top of that.
Nice. I think that's a perfect way to finalize this, the third session of UNS, Unified Namespace. David, thank you very much. Dion, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here, and I've learned a lot. Hopefully the people in the audience, the people listening and viewing have gotten some information. And again, we're not telling the world that we tell the truth. We just share what we think.
What we know now.
It's all about.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.